This is my first year on politics, and as I started getting into some of the projects, I noticed a familiar pattern to what I had noticed about 20 years ago when I co-founded a company that sits at the confluence of behavioral science, data science, human-centered design, trying to tackle complex problems or problems in complex systems. And our idea then was to assemble a team of diverse skills and to throw a problem at them with a loosely defined hierarchy. But there's no hierarchy within the skill set per se. The and we've noticed similar things, which I'm sure some of you noticed as you get into these projects. What am I supposed to do? Who is going to tell me what to do? How do we start this meeting? And so on and so forth. There is an awkward nature to some of these, initial conversations. And we'll talk about some ideas that we tried and helped us resolve some of this. So first of all, I think complex problems need two things from a team. Of course, you need high diverse information. In our case, like I said, we had behavioral scientists and architects and trying to solve, say, a transportation safety problem. Uh, and that brought rich, diverse information. The other condition we had is to have an intent to act, or you need high capability for action. And the idea is that the teams have to spend a lot of time in the field, in the context, and try things, have a solution or a prototype mindset as opposed to a research mindset. Now, there are pros and cons of a hierarchy, or when there is a designated leader in the room. If it's a complicated problem, leaders generally work well, but not so much in context of complex problems. A good example that comes to mind is a few years ago, the Prime Minister of India decided everyone should have a bank account, and within a matter of 3 or 4 months, some 250 million bank accounts were opened. But the same intent in road safety did not translate to any significant changes. In fact, it kind of got worse. But again, there's a class of problems where a designated leader works great, but most of the stuff that we're dealing with that may not be, the best frame. And the drawbacks of that are fairly well known. It's either the most paid person, or the most reputed person, or the most experienced person that kind of dominates the conversation. There's also sequence effects. What this dominant person says first tends to have a cascading effort. And capability kind of concentrates within one or two people who are tasked with execution, whereas others taking kind of a backseat. And so while we were doing this, we noticed some of these patterns, and we tried some ideas, and I want to share some of those. The first thing we asked teams is to go and develop a quick prototype. So it's not so much as a plan, but give the room something incomplete to react to. It could be a provocation, it could be a half-formed map, or a field observation, or a note that you write based on field observations, videos, and photographs. The idea is to produce multiple reactions. It worked, really well to keep the project moving. The other thing is to keep perspective fluid across, people and time. In the area that I work with global health, we are normally asked to, have a theory of change, and people get locked into this theory of change, which I'm not a big fan of. As you understand the problem, you need to be fluid in terms of changing or having an evolving, theory of change. And the last thing, again, in a leaderless kind of room, one of the other awkward point is that have we arrived at a decision or not? So again, it's critical, for members to make that moment visible and call out when a decision is kind of made. So
30 seconds,
people could
Ram.
people could kind of take turns as somebody is taking notes, somebody is keeping time, and somebody is ensuring that everybody gets equal time. A leaderless room is kind of uncomfortable, as I've kind of noticed, but it's also a better room for some of the problems that we are dealing with. Thank you.